Hello, everyone. Welcome to 360 Degrees Excellence, where we believe everyone can have all-round success. Today, I'm going to be having a conversation with my very good friend, Professor Pius Owolawi, and we're going to be talking about data and development in Africa. I'm so excited to talk to him because I've known him for a very long time. I remember when I first got my job at DUT about 10 years ago, he was one that came to pick me to the house, the hotel I was staying there. You know, he has had a wonderful influence on my life, you know. I'm wearing my t-shirt, BRE t-shirt. BRE is Brown International Advanced Research Institute in Brown University, Rhode Island, in the United States of America. He was one that told me about BRE. He attended BRE in 2013. I attended BRE in 2014, and BRE really changed the way I, look at research, and has had a positive influence in my research. So I'm glad to be speaking with him today about what is very, very important: data. We are in a data revolution, so to say. So today we're going to be talking about that. So without wasting time, let's just dig in. So, Prof, can you just tell us about yourself? Tell the viewers about yourself. I know a lot about you, but I just want you to tell them yourself.
Actually, before I start with myself, I want to start with you first. And I want to start with your program, what you're doing. And I'm really humble to be part of this program. I'm sure when you started, it's something that pursued my mind to say that this is a very great initiative that you are about to commence on. And I think it's a very right thing to do. And I'm sure a lot of your viewers are really, really grateful for this amazing job you are actually doing to South Africa as a whole, also to the continent, which is Africa, as a whole. And I'm sure one of my very popular quote, goes by saying that when you have the right information, basically you will form a right idea and you have a right direction. And what will happen to ignorance is that it will be deformed. Right information actually form a right ideas and also give right direction and deform ignorance immediately. Therefore,
Absolutely.
they are inversely proportional to each other. Right information, ignorance, they are inversely proportional to each other. And I think that is exactly what your program is actually doing to a lot of community, worldwide, also Africa in particular, and also our South Africa, as where we reside, actually.
Thank you so much.
Benefit a lot from this program. I'm also a good follower of you on the Facebook, and I also read a lot of your Christian values that you put there. And I think they are very wonderful topics and wonderful admirations messages, which I think it balances the internal, which is the spiritual aspect of our being, which is very necessary as well. We feed two parts of our being. We feed the physical, we also feel the internal one, which is probably the spiritual aspect. If both of them are healthy, you are actually bound to have a very happy life. If one of them is not healthy, you actually have to be probably sick, either of the side. Yeah, just to say thank you to you for amazing job.
You're welcome.
And just to say something about myself, my name is Pius Owolawi, and we say that I have a classical qualification and also have industrial certification in the field of engineering and also ICT respectively. My first degree is in physics and electronics from Nigeria, Federal University of Technology, Akure. And then I proceed to have my master's and doctoral degree in electronic engineering from University of KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. Then I'm a member of several professional bodies, such as engineering, South Africa Engineering Council, and a lot of bodies, professional body also in ICT. I also have a complementary qualifications, and when I say complementary qualification, I'm talking about postgraduate diploma in artificial intelligence and machine learning from University of Texas, and also data science and business analytics also from University of Texas. Also, I have a kind of postgraduate diploma also in cloud computing from Great Lake in India. Also have advanced diploma from Australia, which is basically they call it advanced diploma in remote engineering, mechatronics, and robotics. About 3-in-1 from Engineering Institute of Australia. Then I have several certifications, Cisco, Microsoft, wireless, and all those what have you. Currently, I think I'm a third-year student in law school at UNISA, and also have one first-year also master's in AI with International University of Applied Science in Germany. Also, I've authored several scientific articles and probably one book to my name, and also recently, I've been appointed in the country as 4IR research chair under the MIC CITA. And I think that's just a summary of who I am. Don't let me go on and on like that.
Yeah. This is awesome. Somebody says a leader is someone that helps you to do more, to know more. You're a leader. Because sometimes I wonder, how are you able to do all these things? You're also the HOD of Department of Computer Systems Engineering at Tshwane University of Technology. How are you able to do all these things? How? Where do you find the time?
To be honest with you, it's always a big question everyone always asks me. How do you cope in all this stuff? It's just about interest. Let me use that one. If you have the will, you will have the way, and something consume you, it will definitely deliver you. Something have to consume you to deliver you. Okay, if a positive attitude, positive belief that you have consumes you, it will deliver you to success. Success is not cheap. Let me use that word. It requires people who knows the ingredient of it, that take it up. And if it is cheap, everybody will have it. But if it's not, that means it requires effort from your side, and you don't pick it by the roadside. It comes from the will, faith, and belief, and hard work. And that's what I believe.
Yeah. Are you? I've never asked you. Where are you from in Nigeria? Is it Ekiti?
No, I'm actually from Ife.
Okay, Ife. Okay. People from Ife too. They also study a lot too. OAU. It's very interesting. But it's very good to study. I see you that you're a lifelong learner, and it is very, very good when we have the gift. When we're able to understand, we have passion for learning, we just do it. Some people don't have that passion. God has given you that passion, you should go for it. maybe someday I'm also going to register for law. I just registered for my MBA. Thanks. You wrote the one of the reference letters for me, I think it's good for people to keep learning. If you have the means, you should keep learning, because the more you learn, the more you know. And the more places you go, that was what Dr. Sweat said. It's good to keep learning, to keep studying. Thank you so much. And today we're talking about data and development.
Yeah.
Can you just tell us why data matters for development?
Actually, this question you are asking me, I would rather go this way, in opposite way, to look at it in the way to say, let me say it this way, that why data matters for development. We can also look at it in the way that where is the even data coming from, and why is it so important that by this 21st century, everybody now call data as the oil.
Yeah.
When it's like that, that means it's something very, very expensive as time goes by. One of the reasons why I would say the data is actually become the oil. Number one is that if you look at the internet penetration, and I'm going to use Africa because our focus is to look at it from the African lens, and that we actually better. I will use value and I will use some statistical value to actually explain. And I will put it in 2 or 3 contexts by looking at what happened, in terms of the number of the users of internet in 2020, and we compare that kind of number of users of internet in 2020. Let's start from 2000 the number of user of internet in 2000, and the number of internet user in 2020. Now, if we can find a correlation in how the data grow within that particular years, we appreciate what would be the value of data, and why is everybody is actually calling that data the oil, or I would call it a mineral resources of our own generation.
Absolutely.
If you look at South Africa, for example, let's take our country here as a very good example. In 2000, we have the number of the user of internet to be around over 2 million of people actually have access to internet. Now, today we're talking about over 34 million of people have access to internet. You're talking about 57.5% increase, and you're talking about almost 1,339% in terms of the internet growth within that particular period. And that tells you that it's a lot of mineral resources of data in terms of data that is flowing. And these data that are flowing, from our traditional approach of interpreting them, we use a classical statistic only to predict the future to find. But because of the advent of artificial intelligence, which is a pattern or a clustering-based classifications, we can extract a lot of patterns from data, which can be translated to a business model, a monetary value, which cannot be easily found in a two-dimensional linear prediction that we have before. We have pattern prediction now, which can give you a lot of meaning to clusters of data. And from there, when you are informed with those information, you can translate them now into equivalent business model. That is one of them. And the surprising things about this particular statistic is Nigeria tends to be the second leading in terms of internet penetration, with about 76.4% of internet penetration. That means there is a huge amount of population of the young people using internet or consuming data or producing data or generating data in the country. That means that kind of country must be looking at a very strict policy when it comes to regulations, which can bring income back into the country, because it's a resources. Remember, the data each citizen is generating is a resources for some businesses. And I'm going to tell you that a Silicon Valley business people, they don't take data as the way we look at it, because that's what predicts what will be advertised in the next market chart. That's what will change their own income, because of that pattern of data, pattern they are getting or extracting from the data. And that is why, one of the reasons why data is actually very important. Another point is that you realize that the advent of diverse of devices, such as your smart gadget, your smartphone, your iPad, your camera, they are producer of all this, they are generator of all this particular data. And I'm sure average people today, they have cell phone, they have iPad, where they have also camera, where they generate a lot of data. Each of these data, it can be text, it can be picture, which they are all data, and this, if you know how many texts people actually message a day, that's a lot of resources. And if somebody get a pattern of what you are texting per day, or the web, what are you surfing on the webs, they can actually manage your marketing, and they stimulate you to keep buy. And some income goes to some people in that. Without that data, there's no way they can develop what is simply termed to be a recommended system. And recommended system can actually predict your market or your customer behavior, and be able to suggest something to you. For example, if you like, perhaps you like trying to Google bread, what type of bread, they might actually add eggs to it. They might actually add bacon to it and say, no, this man, when you mix all this together, he might buy all those particular items. And this is a result of the combination of the system that integrate together to find pattern in what you are in your data interaction, and they were able to track that. That is from the point of diverse of devices that are actually producing a lot of data. Let me quickly say what the IBM computer declared. They said that by 2.5 quintillion of byte of data are generated per day, and what we are saying in essence is that we're talking about a lot of data, which is a quintillion of byte of data generated per day. 90% of the world data is created in the past 4 years, for your information. All this magic actually occur within 4 years of 90% of data, the massive data we're talking about, are created within 4 years that we're talking about. The average UK citizen is actually expected to be on a device for almost 20 hours per week. Imagine generating data almost 20 hours per week. An average American, we use 4 hours per day on smartphone. That's average America. Imagine how many data that are being generated within that particular period of time, And if I will say that average people, we have approximately 4 devices that will be producing data. You're talking about your iPhone, your iPad, your computer, maybe even your wristwatch,
smartphone, your smartwatch.
All those items, they're actually generating data. Another reason why data is very important is that the world population, is actually growing dramatically. Imagine one person in the world have access to 4 devices, for example. And in 2020, we said the approximate world population reached about 7.8 billion, if I'm not mistaken. And and that is a lot. And one of the saying is saying that by 2030, we expect 7 billions of people, to be able to connect to devices and internet. And we expect 7 trillions of things to be connected by 2030. 7 trillions of things. Trillions of things means that your phone will be connected to the internet and generating this particular mineral resources that we are talking about, which is data. And that is why data is very crucial. And that is why there must be regulations, like we have tax that must be placed on people to also create return on investment for people who generate that particular data one way or the other, or bring resources to countries that generate more data. And I will tell you, Nigerians can actually generate a lot of income because they have about 70.5% of their youth actually generating data in terms of internet penetration in the country. The other point that I think we must also look into is that data is being used for prediction. It can be a classical prediction or a pattern approach prediction, which when you use your artificial intelligence, which basically create a kind of a prediction that you get from there. And the advent of different techniques of AI also has also empowered the importance of data, either your supervised learning, your ensemble or your reinforcement learning, all those ones has actually empowered, the data industry. The other thing is that I'm sure the 21st century have a different names, For example, we call it a data age, silicon age, fourth industrial revolution, all those, or data-driven innovation age. Those are things that they cannot name a certain century with that name without finding the importance with respect to data, Other thing that we also have to check is what we call data booming. We're actually in a dispensation of data booming. For example, if you look at the amount of data being produced in 2019, you are talking about 40 zettabytes of data was produced in 2019. And when you look at it by 2025, we expect that that particular data of 40 zettabytes will actually grow as far as 163 zettabytes. You are talking about 4 times of what's produced in 2019. That means by 2025, we are going to produce times 4 of that. In other words, times 4 of mineral resources of data, so that you will know how important data is actually coming up. And you won't make any mistake when you look at those people who fail to comply with the first regulation, I'm talking about GDPR, which is the European regulation that was enforced in Europe. A very good victim of this particular penalty who failed to comply. I'm sure you remember the Facebook Cambridge Analytica, fine, against Facebook. Just imagine $5 billion was leveled against Facebook for breaching the regulations, And are you telling me that the data is not important, but they level a kind of penalty that worth almost $5 billion against one American company. And that's the highest so far in the entire wide world, And we also have a similar people who also fell the victim of this kind of a bridging, or no compliance when it comes to data regulations, for example. We're talking about the like of British Airways, for example, who was leveled against with almost 183 million pounds, against them for bridging the regulations of data. And this is telling you that how important data is. If data is not important, I'm sure those companies, they will have fought their way through and say, my friend, I don't need this. Just forget about the data. But they realize that the data are very, very important to them, And this is all the reason why we say data is very important. And for Africa, in African context, we need to now be aware so that our case is not going to be somebody is taking my oil. I'm drilling the oil at the rate of roughly $100 per barrel, but I'm taking it to another country and they return that oil back to me. The same oil I transported out, they give me back in petrol. And now they said the same thing to me at $300 per barrel. What sense is that? We are the owner of mineral resources. Are you telling me, and now the country is telling me that they subsidize that? Can you tell me a country who let its mineral resources leave its own soil and return back at 300? You sell at $100, they return back $300 to you. You will never get out of debt. And that is why the regulation needs to be enforced so that we'll be able to get the value on what we produce as a data, in the country. I'm sure a lot of international companies, they are mining a lot of data in Africa at the moment, are paying for it, and that is why South Africa is actually moving ahead of a lot of country in the area of regulation development.
We get the Prof. I think we get that. You've said a lot, awesome response. And one thing I also want to say from what you said is about the fact that all of us are generating data, and that data is important. And we must know that we're generating data and must value and appreciate that data. And you also talked the other time about data mining, which is very, very important, because data will not be useful if it cannot be processed. And because we're generating a lot of big data, we have big data. The tool we use to analyze small data cannot work this time around. Data analytics is very, very important. And I think it's also very important for the government to know that they need this data for service delivery. They need data for resource allocation. So data is very, very important. You've said it all. You've talked about what is also, influencing, data exploration, like internet penetration. You've talked about the fact that we have a lot of devices. And South Africa really came up with these POPI the other time, recently, about protection of information, and it's very, very important for us to also know that what we put out to some people are using it, and we must think about how we protect valuable data. Very, very important. You were just talking about data and cloud policy of South Africa, and I'm sure you really contributed one way or the other. Can you tell us about it and what other African countries can learn from it?
Yeah, I think that's why I said our country has actually moved very far in terms of the data protection. And one of the things that you're talking about the POPI Act now, which is very important. And South African actually is one of the countries that have already established data protection policy, which is a POPI Act. Now, which became effective from today anyway. Just
yeah, as from today. Yeah.
If you mess up with data,
yeah.
you probably will be with that. Just know it's today that
today. Yeah.
They are not stopping at that point. They are now moving into second level, which is that is when we have a new draft regulations of new data and cloud policy. And the purpose of this, one of the things is to put the citizen at the center, okay, to be conscious of the value of citizen data and to protect their privacy as well. And also to add value, not only that, to complement the existing policy that was in place. And that is the reason, because there are few gaps in the previous policy of POPI Act, for example. There are so many gaps that are already there, which can create a kind of loopholes as for foreign investors who can actually take advantage of that in the country. At the same time, there must be a balance, you know, in what the regulation is bringing, and there must be a balance in what the investors want, because we need to make African, you know, a ripe region for investors to come in, because we are not developed yet. At the same time, we cannot take garbage, we cannot take nonsense anymore, because we're already advanced as well. Therefore, there must be, like what I told Minister, is that we need to strike a balance between the regulations and what the investors actually want. But they must meet, we must meet order in between, in the middle way. There must be a right here. Now, the beautiful things about the new regulation or policy that is being drafted is that it's more or less the citizen centric. It's take the people and also consider inclusive economy, where the people are included in the wealth that the data will generate. And that's the beauty of a cloud and data policy, which was not in the POPI Act before. And there are lapses in the POPI Act that also I actually make recommendation with the with SMME chamber to the minister to say that they need to incorporate that in this particular new policy of data and cloud policy that is recently drafted. And I hope that minister, they will definitely listen to those particular advice. But at the same time, there was a warning that we need to strike a balance so that we don't just pull the string and investors run away to where the ground is very fertile. Let me just first say that when you look at the data policy from the global point of view, you know, a very popular one that all of us we are used to is your GDPR, which everybody is, which is European, the entire European-based policy, which is a framework which they've developed for themselves. We also have what we call CCCPA, which is a California-based, and which I think the American now, a lot of majority states in America want to consider that kind of policy, you know, to be implemented across their own region. We also have our own, which is POPI Act, you know, which also we are talking about already implemented now. We also have PIPIDA, which is more or less of the Canadian one. Then we have LGPD, which is more or less the Brazilian one. Those ones are actually in process. You know, Australia have a lot of regulation when it comes to data protection, you know, as well. UK also have their own Data Protection Act of 2018, for example. You know, there are a lot of Western world are already established data regulation. However, Africa are not left out. We have almost 17 African countries already. They've already enacted a comprehensive personal data protection legislation. Don't be surprised. Angola, for example, already established their own. Benin, Burkina Faso, Cape Verde, Gabon, Ghana, Africa. But you'll be surprised, Nigeria is not there. And they have a penetration of 78.5 of internet penetration. And that is my big worry, that are you going to waste the data that you have grown up to 78.5% of the entire populations? This is a huge population. This is a huge market, you know, where more population, the already established regulation. You that have a huge population that can change the market, you haven't done that.
Yeah, I think maybe the problem is that people don't appreciate data. And people always talk about the resource cost. When you have oil, you have gas, you don't worry about, but I think they should wake up to realize that data is a new oil. But I
That's
think that's the problem we have in Nigeria. We have this oil, so the leadership is thinking about the oil, the gas, and things like that. I think I hope it won't be late before they really appreciate, data and have a policy, which is very,
absolutely.
very important.
Absolutely. I mean, the other three countries now, they've already in the process of developing, which their data regulation already in the legislative form. They are the Kenya, they are Uganda, and Zimbabwe. But it has
Yeah.
not been translated to law. It's just in their own legislative format. But we expect it to, hopefully, very soon, it should be translated into law. That means a lot of African countries also are moving towards that particular framework of complete data regulation, but my own taking is here, which I also propose, there should be a unified framework for African perspective, so that we have all this particular policy, and regulation converging on a one single African Union framework of data protection for entire Africa, like we have for the case of Europe. This is one of my proposals to African Union as well. We must have a
Yeah.
unified where we have a seamless connections of all this policy and regulation coming together to make sense for the African continent, so that we protect what is simply called interborder trading, when it comes to migration of data. And because of the advent of cloud computing, you can actually operate your business in the US and have your database, data control and management right in South Africa. That means if the policy here does not take care of that, that means they will be at the advantage of that. And those are things that have to come in. Data does not need to reside where you stay anymore. It can actually reside in the farm, and you are making money in the city. And that is
Yeah.
balance have to come. And that is my proposal, to the let's to say that there are common personal data protection teams that are very popular, are very, very common to all the policy. So that the policy are basically summarized in about 5 or 3 form or teams, where you can actually create a generic framework for African continent. One of them is more or less the choice and the consent of the people, especially when you want to take the data from them. The other one is a notice of what data do you want to take. The other one is also data security. You talk about the data access and correction, also the data quality and integrity. You don't tint the data, otherwise you will lose the value of the data. We have data retention and also data destruction. If let's say you can retain certain data, for example, if I capture your age as a data 2 years ago, definitely what I've captured as a number cannot operate now, because you are older than 2 years. That means that data needs to be upgraded, if you know what I mean. Or perhaps the one needs to be destroyed. And that is what we call data retention and data destruction. All those are basically the team in which it is common. Also, the registration with Data Protection Authority as well. Like when you take data from people, you need to register that with authority to say, I've taken this biodata, I've taken the age, I've taken the fingerprint, all this data, you register it. This is the kind of data I've taken from you. Therefore, you cannot just extrapolate my data by saying my fingerprint, my age, perhaps this person is going to die when he's 50 because of those three data. You only take data for what you need it to do, and you tell me what you're going to use it for. You cannot extrapolate my data to now use it for prediction, which I don't have any consent of. That means you cannot guess me from my data. And that is what is simply, Then we have what we call cross-border data transfer, because your data can be moved from here, which is being generated in South Africa and moved to UK. That's what we call cross-border data transfer. Also, we have what we call personal data breach notification. If something happened to your data storage, they need to let you know. Somebody have tampered with your data where we kept it. Therefore, you need to know, because it's your data, it's your right. Therefore, you must be informed about what happened to your data. The appointment of data protection officer also become a very crucial part, especially in data auditing, because the data you store needs to be evaluated every, maybe a certain periodic time. Like you audit account, you need to audit people's data so that if anything have altered that particular data, there must be a report that needs to be generated for the owner of the data. I think let me stop there.
Yes,
I
mean, this is,
will just keep up.
I think we will have a part two. You know, you are loaded with a lot of this information. You know, I'm not surprised, and I've learned a lot from our discussion today. I want to ask this question. You know, especially because of young people that are watching this channel. What advice will you give to your 21-year-old self?
You know, if anybody asks me, I will tell everyone, my child, be coded. Your generation is about code. Either you're a doctor, either you're a lawyer, either you are a farmer, whatever you are, it's a coded word. Anything 20th century and above is a coded word. That means I'm going to take a young people, if you don't like programming, pick up programming. It's going to be the language you are going to speak for the next 50, 100 years, 200 years, 300 years. If you are playing keyboard, you are doing whatever, it's coded word. This word will just be binary. There's no way out anymore. Either yes or no. It's about numbers. That means I'm going to encourage the young people to look into a coded word. You know, let them be program oriented, scientific oriented, and especially looking into the fourth industrial revolution's area of work, you know, work of life. I'm talking about looking at AI as an area of specialization. You can combine medicine with AI, you can combine law with AI, you can combine anything with AI, you can combine food with AI, you can apply computer vision in food technology, you can do so many things this particular programming world. Therefore, I will encourage the young people to be coded because their world. Therefore, that is one of the things that I will encourage them. I will also encourage them to incline themselves, especially in the area of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence will now be the bedrock foundation in which any other thing will sit on. If you want to do anything in this 21st century generation, it will sit on that bedrock, you know, like your basic engineering sit on physics and mathematics. So their word of work, their word of life will sit on artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence will be the framework in which any other thing build on. Computer vision will build on it, robotic will build on it, data science will build on it, medicine will build on it. A lot of things will build on it. You know, you want to do any test, you can predict. You know, if somebody give you the sample of something, you just take the picture, you use computer vision, it gives you prediction of what kind of disease, what kind of blood type, whatever. Everything we sit on the science of artificial intelligence. Therefore, it should be their basic physics and basic chemistry they must learn in varsity, you know. And also, they also needs to be strengthened in the area of soft skill. You know, when I say personal competency, I'm talking about a critical thinking, stress management, and reliability. You know, just remember those three: critical thinking, stress management, because their generation is going to be full of stress. A lot of competition have to come in, but there is a sufficient space for every one of them to fly. The good things about this era is that a child, you don't need to grow old to become a millionaire. Your interest can actually make you a millionaire. A child can be a millionaire. There is no specific requirement that I must be 50 years, I must finish varsity, I must finish high school to be a millionaire. No, it's actually a generation that actually the most opportune generation. If a child decides to be a graphic artist and just focus on that, after 2-3 years, he begins to build certain things. Let's say a game programming, for example, and sell on the internet. You don't even need to be in America before you start selling. You just have to click, just load it on the Facebook or whatever. You're already a millionaire. As long as it's trending, it's already pop. It's a millionaire. Therefore, it's a borderless generation for opportunity. Therefore, people must grab that. It's an opportunity that you just have your phone and you have your voice and you sing to your phone and you become a millionaire. You don't need a studio. You don't need anything.
Absolutely.
It's loaded with a lot of opportunity. And I think the young people must take that advantage. Also, it's loaded with a lot of information, trafficking 24 hours. I remember when we were in varsity, I have to travel almost 45 minutes to go and get one reference in OAU.
We'll Google it.
And
You can Google it.
today, you can actually read 1,000 books. If you need to download 1,000 books on your phone to read, to get correct information, it doesn't take you. I always tell my students, your answer actually lies in your chest. You sleep with it every day. You wake up with it. You go with it. It's in your pocket even in the exam, but you don't even see it. Whereas for me to get one information, I have to work mine. I have to search the cabinet. I have to check. I have to look just for one page of paper. How easy is this generation? And that is why I'm saying that they are the blessed generation I've ever seen in my life, because information is free. Knowledge is cheap. If you want to build a rocket today, go to the YouTube. They will tell you step by step how to build a rocket. You don't struggle about that. You don't need to go to NASA to be expert. Just go to the YouTube. You find everything you want there. And that is why I'm saying that they are blessed generation. Let me stop there.
Absolutely. You nailed it. You nailed it. The importance of fourth industrial revolution. And another area that I'm very, very excited about is blockchain. Blockchain is also very, very important, you know. And you mentioned artificial intelligence is very, very important, and coding. And so if young people listening to us, you must consider that. You must learn all those, also machine learning, language, very, 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 very important. I've really, really learned from our discussion today. What's your closing remark for us?
Sorry?
What's your closing remark?
Okay. Like my closing remark is that I always differ from everyone who I've met. I've been in part of the world, several parts of the world. I don't know how many countries that I've traveled to. Only one reading I hear, Africa is poor. But my finding is that Africa is the richest continent in the entire world. It's a surprise when they say we are poor, but I found out eventually why we are poor. And where we are poor is that we are poor in converting our resources to a valuable and tangible asset. You know, I've given you a very good example of Nigeria, the cost on the mining of crude oil, of drilling of crude oil, estimate to $100. They take that crude oil to maybe Venezuela or wherever where they take it to, or Trinidad and Tobago. They process it and return it back to them at $300. Who paid deficit of that? Instead of your resources becoming something very valuable. And you see, what is missing in African context is a process. You see, we have resources, we transform them to crude oil, we package them, but we don't have the process. Remember, in a business, what brings highest return is the process. If you mine a gold now, the gold you sell at, let's say, 20,000, for example, will come back to you at 100,000 to buy. And you find out that about almost 67% actually profit lies on the process. And that is why the knowledge economy become a crucial factor for African development. If you want to build Africa, you want African to lead anyone in the continent, build the knowledge of the young people who will supersede us, who will succeed us. And that is why my focus as a person is to develop the African youth, you know, especially in the area of fourth industrial revolution. If anybody asks me, why do I study all these places? Where do I go to the best university to take the best knowledge? My interest is to actually, I know a lot of African kids cannot have a lot of money to go to university. Why can't I take their knowledge, translate it in African context, and give it to them free of charge? All they have to do is to log into my server. If you want to be a data scientist, go there. I will have done a lot of lectures in African context, African language, with African examples. You know, then you build from there. I want to see African kids not dying in the Red Sea anymore. I want to see them to have the opportunity for what I call job mobility. If Nigeria cannot give you job, somebody in America will look for your skill. And you must have a right skill to be invited to fly down, and they will pay your flight. Instead of you dying in the Red Sea, somebody paid the flight, come here and stay because of the knowledge that you have. I want to see the African children having that opportunity to gain the right skill, the training skill, and the required skill to make them to be valuable. If you ask me, China has a lot of population, but every person in China are very valuable. Why is it Africa we cannot put value on our youth? And we are the youngest youth, vibrant, highly intelligent youth. Therefore, we must be able to convert this particular God blessing and God resources into very valuable stuff. And that is one of the things that I see, that African, we are not poor. For your information, Africa continent in terms of land mass actually take America, take China, and take the whole Europe. You combine them together in total square meter, they fit in, and Africa is a little bit more than them by almost 1.5% in terms of the land side. Now, then why is now America is giving us food when we are hungry? Why is it that they are feeding us when we have a huge land mass and they have less? Ratio 1:3. It's a question that we need to ask ourselves.
Yeah.
And that is
leadership.
It's about process. Something is not right with our process techniques. No. And that is why one person can have a huge amount of acre of land and can feed the whole state. Whereas in our own case, we don't convert our knowledge to that particular level. It's high time that we see Africa that we are not poor. I should actually pray to this Western world to stop giving us grant and make us to get serious. Because stop giving us grant, we will, your potential will be awakened. When you know where you are going to get the next meal, you know how to go and work and get money to get the next food on your table. Therefore, I look at it, African is not poor. We need to change that longer. The only thing is that African lack good leadership. We lack leader who doesn't have numbers. Somebody recently said something which I like a lot. And Nigeria must learn from that. In the next election of Nigeria must choose a leader that understands number. If you don't understand number, you cannot plan for people.
Absolutely.
For us to have a leader who understands numbers in Africa. And Africa have never been benefited from that kind of opportunity. Thank God for Rwanda, perhaps. Thank God for a few African countries that we've seen that the kind of leadership they are proposing is changing the entire landscape. Therefore, I look forward for Nigeria to look for leaders that are intellectually strong, leader that knows numbers, who knows that if I produce 1,000 liters of crude oil, this is the number of people that will benefit in terms of if I distribute the income. We don't want a leader that will just sit down who doesn't even know how much income country is generating. When you don't know how much income country is generating, how do you know you are going to distribute income? How do you know? And that is very, very. Therefore, Africa must elect leaders that knows numbers. No leader when they get to parliament, they don't know what each of their mineral resources cost. And because of that, they cannot plan for their country. Therefore, there's Then the third one is that we must invest in youth. Our leader must learn to create sufficient allocation to empower the youth. If your youth fail, your future is destroyed. Therefore, there's no much how much we love ourselves. A very good preacher in Nigeria, I think Benson Dawson, one sentence, which I so much love him for that. He said, a successful man without a successor is simply a failure in disguise. And it is true. It is time that we look at the great people. If you want me to name the best surgeon, you see a lot of Nigerians who are best surgeons in Western world. You see a lot of Nigerians who are professors, who are great professors. Go to Silicon Valley, you find them there. Therefore, it doesn't mean Nigeria does not have a wealth of knowledge of great people. The fact of the matter is that it is high time everybody start investing on our youth. If there anything that makes me to cry in Africa, is about the future of this youth. No one is looking after them. No one cares about what happened to them in future. No one cares about how they are going to sleep and how they are going to be fed in future. It is time for everybody to invest in the life of these young people so that we can sustain Africa and we can make Africa to be great. The last one is that our curriculum, educational curriculum, need to be reviewed. We need to drive our education towards a productive and resourceful based education. What I mean by that is that it must be a skill-driven education that we are giving to our students, to our youth. I remember when I was in varsity, there was equation they will write quantum, is it quantum physics or something like that? We wrote equation from one end of the board to another end of the board. The question, the person just simply wasted my memory. I would have used my memory to program something to make robot to work, rather than wasting my time without having any resource for. That's why I'm saying that we must now review the curriculum to be a skill-driven curriculum that lead our youth and our graduates to be able to be established as entrepreneurs and independent job makers, not job seekers. It is high time we do that. It doesn't mean America is better than us. It's just because somebody have a right perspective, right idea, and implement them. And that is why they are different. I never see anybody brain different from mine. I've been Harvard, I've been MIT, I've been so many places. I've never seen them being different from mine. Well, what is different is the environment and the way things are implemented. And the way things are implemented are very, very different from. And I think that's what I'm going to share as a closing remark, of our webinar, if I want to use that one.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Prof. You really spoke to us today like a prof, like a brilliant professor that you are. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to do this interview with me. I've been blessed from our discussion. Well appreciated for what you've done and for sharing your mind, your passion, and wanting to give back to these young people. But I'm positive that Africa, is rising. And I believe that these young people will change things. Remember what happened in Nigeria, the NSAS, how they came out and they used the power of the internet to ask for change. And whether the leaders like it or not, they are going to be gone. These young people, they've seen what is happening in other countries. And also because of data, because of exchange of information, exchange of data, they've seen what is happening in other countries. And they want their country to be like that. And so a time is coming, they're going to demand a change. There's going to be a revolution. And I know it's going to be positive for these our young people. And as professors, as teachers, we keep telling young people about greatness. That greatness is not how much you have in your bank account. Greatness is serving others. And as these young people begin to change their mindset, the mindset of the older generation in Africa is, they think about themselves. But young people begin to think about, it's not about me, it's about my community. John F. Kennedy said, don't ask what your country will do for you. Ask what you will do for your country. And when we begin to have young people thinking this way, the nation is going to be positive. And Africa is going to lead in future. I'm positive about that. Thanks you so much once again. And to our viewers, I'm sure you've really learned a lot. I've learned a lot. And I want to hear your views. I want to put down your comments, like it, like our YouTube channel, share with people. See you next time. God bless you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.